What's going down, Cyberpunk fans? 1.3 is almost here, and if you are watching this video and it's live, then start your download. A free DLC is about. It just seems to be that season. And if you're a fan of Marvel's Avengers, I'll have a video tagged at the very end of this that you'll like, because guess what? There's a brand new character. Mystery and spoiler, you'll have to watch that. So moving on to today, which we are looking at Cyberpunk 2077, we're going to see the installment of some patch notes. My name is Mac with the MacGyver7 channel, and today we will be ripping apart what is inside of that and seeing what is in the DLC itself that is free content. If you're newer to the network, you can always subscribe in company with the notification bell, and we're going to scroll into it. As you can see, we go into the nicer patch notes, and you can see what is going to be hiding in the menu. Under an additional content, you will see the free DLC that will be downloaded very shortly inside of your inventory box. For the consoles, then it will have a lot of improvements on top of some balancing and a ton of other fixes. But for right now, one of the bigger things that it delivers inside of this and following is Johnny Silverhands, the alternate appearance that can be enabled in the settings for the additional content tab. Now, as far as the multi-layering, you can get some pretty cool attire that's going to be coming down to some jackets, as well as the portion of where you can go down to seeing some bandit portions and getting rewards. It depends on the choices made by the players. So after completing the ghost town and then receiving a message from Dakota or Rogue. So stay into those situations. You'll see some other portions pop up, but the main portion is newer content. Now, looking at what we can see for as far as some improvements, mini-map comes into it with the level of driving. It's more zoomed out. You can see the automatic love and the screened pictures of Sky and Angel. While coming down to the portions of display, it's going to be easier between the two. You can see what comes down to one of the cooler ones is the relocation of distribution perks and the points on the character's skill tree. One of the bigger portions for myself to see on this was an improved save system, with the increased number slots from 10 to 20 and auto saves for the quick saves in that situation going from 3 to 10 on all platforms. You can see the database inside of the link in the journal entries. You can see the portion of accessibility inside of options inside of certain screens where the dotted overlay. This is supposed to reduce some of the motion sickness that has been kicked up, and it's going to be fixed with a setting interface inside of the center screen dot overlay. Looking on top of that, you can see that the fixer now in the message of V to offer a car for purchase less than often. So that way you're not running around. That's one of the things I've had. So very nice to be able to purchase a car after you've lost yours. Or you could just keep, GTAing and just taking them all. But moving on to the reflection, where you can see the effect that is taking grainy on the console on a lower setting on the quality of PC. They have now also looked into the filters for the quest items in the backpack. The tags on top of the miscellaneous jobs will be removed after finishing associated quests and being able to sell and drop them. You look into what happens with the possibility of the rotate on V on the inventory with the mouse. You can also look at the proper portions of crafting with the quick hand. Even once crafted it, then you can get rid of it. On top of the comparisons of the tooltips and the cyberware, improved notifications within that cyberware and the level requirements equipped. It's now possible also to upgrade the components in bulk. It adds a sleep spot for as far as inside of V's apartment. You can see icons inside of the portions of crates turning red when players pick up instead of the grayed out portion. The continuation of fixes go into the icon, which will be grayed out, as well as those boxes. You can see the portions for disarming certain things. Now, the possible points of utilizing the elevator to carry for a body in Happy Together and Barry Now, it hasn't updated for more unique appearances. On top of the base items highlighted and the components in the present inventory to craft inside of there. Now the balances are going to come down to anywhere from like actually physical, easy, normal, and other difficulties screwing up their missions, and I've noticed this. So if you have had a difficult mission that you've not been wanting to like play and it's not been fun, I'm hoping in this list you are going to get a happy takeaway from the 1.3 installment, and hopefully I will too, because I will definitely be doing a live stream of this later on. I've lined up a lot. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. It's nice to be a gamer right now. You got a lot of cool stuff to play and revisit, so definitely take a look at these. Now moving on to gameplay, where we can see that there's a lot of cool iconic points for the bullet points. You can see the issues start from the crafting specs and the clothing stores were available only during the first visit to vendors. They fixed that on top of the occurred inside of the visit in the Nomad camp, and resulting being able to not get the weapons inside the quick menu. You also had an issue that would have a neutral target that wasn't counted towards the Christmas tree attack achievement. You also look inside the tutorial window inside of the check, and no longer pops when the unauthorized prompt is displayed on the device. V will no longer look down after using the fast travel, and you can see that looking past that you can have the adjustments and functionality and perks, which I like the way that they laid this out. This is personally myself. If there's anyone from this team, you did a fabulous job, a super awesome job, honestly. I like the way that this laid out, because now you can see quick highlighted multi-perks. You can see what the perks are going down. Some people can definitely expand into this for minor and portions of V's behavior in the dialogue. You can see that there is 3 portions that are being fixed, and this is for me a takeaway. It's great for the community. We see what's going down. We get to see that, hey, you guys are focusing on certain areas, and it's cleaner and easier to read and just digest, as we can go down to just the fixing the crafting for as far as prices. And you know, this is for me as like passing on like links to other people, something you can come back and like check out or share to your friends that are just like more of like a literature reading, you know, portion. But moving to where we are pushing forward with this, you can see the rebalance inside of the added and some loot. It fixed some of the variations inside of the pickup, and you can see that there is a lot more fixes with this that are coming down from anywhere from Jackie and the pistol, from the very portion down to the legendary mantis blades. So take a look inside of there. We can see that there's also added new items inside of the remove duplicates inside of endings. Those are very low, very specific. Moving on to the behaviors and visuals inside of the devices, it has a larger, very large list. So I mean, if you were having a behavior and visual for as far as those devices, you should take a look at that. And that's probably where, like, you know, cell phone NPCs, all these other people are just getting hit with some random stuff, which takes away from the immersion. So they're really focusing on that, and that's great to see that that file is pretty decadent. To move forward, we see various portions of issues with elevators, because elevators are always dangerous inside of Cyberpunk 2077, unless, you know, like, you know, Elon Musk wants to make a cyber elevator. That'd be cool. You should do that, Elon. But moving on past that and that romanticized idea, we can see that the portion of the introduced various fixes and improvements towards behaviors and reactions of NPCs in the living city in general. Now these are just very specific portions for the adjustments with inside of behaviors, so just the way that the city will react will be more organic, as we can see the difference inside of the quick hacks inside of scannings and related to these issues. Introduce the minor tweaks and improvements, which is a bigger list than the last, but it definitely does offer some nice camera fixes down to the nicer portions of what you should be checking out if you were having any issues with like exiting cars or, you know, just minor stuff. Now NPC behaviors inside of combats and various portions, this is going to be a little bit more to like dive into, as you can see that these are specific for like other missions inside in portions of drones. Now they tweaked and improved some portions for players. Now you can see that there are some issues even for B, coming down to the portions of the climbable points, fast climbs, slide downs, and you know, you just would have to take a peek at this. I like the way that they laid this out. So if you are having more, I guess, main character driven issues, you know, this is definitely going to be the tweaks and improvements for as far as the mechanics. Now, for as far as the minor issues that have the cyberware, you can see there's minor amount to report as they kind of get down to the adjustments and models. We can see that there is a few of them. Now, the stability for as far as performance in the across, you can see that again they have some highlights, but there is like a nice read for as far as the UI that you can definitely briefly go into. But the multi-performance improvements, what they were trying to get down to was really resolutions and the scaling for improvements, as well as improved frame rates inside of the consistency, resulting in fewer hiccups. So I mean, that also at the same time could be for AMD fans. Then we have FSR, Sony products are AMD. They could finally be working out a nice little secret sauce in order to actually make these more runnable, because that's one of the issues that Cyberpunk 2077 has had, is performance. So if you can get really nice pixels on a last gen or next gen system where you want it in a 4K department and deliver, and not have a system melting or breaking down and they're just like, you know, really just crashing in general. I know this last two were a little bit more far-fetched, but we can see that the streaming improvements also include some cool stuff as we get back onto the focus of the issues in performance inside of the city center and the district. Now, memory optimization inside of this is going to be spanned across systems to reduce the crashes, and the number of fixes is what they found. So they have some cool stuff for as far as the car combat, even down to the Thompson before leaving, some of the never fadeaways, and the crash occurred on the crowds on the minimap. Now, like I mentioned before, UI is going to span across a huge portion of what they are going to be making the user interface more lovable and usable. So you can see some fixes are definitely needed for as far as what you can look into. Graphics and audio and animation, this again comes into like the way that the reinforced portion of what we are looking at for just the moving city, especially with all them putting hard work into the newer patch, the newer DLC, the newer organic portion of the city. This was probably well needed, on top of buffing up a lot of the NPC errors. So moving to the environment inside of levels, you can see that there are minimal fixes, and these are going to go towards the districts. You can see that the city also has the ring road on top of the multi-place inside of the characters get stuck inside of permanent portions. No more, hopefully. Disappearing inside of environments, as well as objects popping into sight. You can see that the bionic tack and flats also come down to the unreachable areas. Quests also have a very specific portion where you can kind of see that the main highlights of this would be the shards in the correct categories. The NPCs would abruptly end, making the NPCs appear and others call promptly. It's just a vicious cycle of, you know, you can barely get this mission done, and they fixed that hopefully, as well as the interrupt of the holo call and resuming another call, which I always thought was ridiculous, but I'm just glad that they addressed that now. Again, ton of missions, and you can take a look as far as the highlights. If these missions, as we were scrolling down, these sweet dreams as they like line up, all have great mission portions of like what has been fixed. So definitely check this link out if you have had one of these missions, which is pretty much, literally I want to say it's almost every single mission has been worked over, and you know, I appreciate them. At least they're putting in a lot of hard work. For as far as the open world, you can see that some issues came down for the holo call coming into another block completion inside of the various gigs. So that's going to be hammered out, removed inside of the redundant look at the body and the Ferris wheel. So that's cool. And the fixed issue for as far as the Quadra Type 66 and the destroyed before buying and blocking progressions inside of buying vehicles, inside of the quests, inside of the possibilities, and getting some achievements. Fixed issue for the shootout on the Wellsprings where enemies were immortal because of a trigger area was too small. Now you can see that there is a ton of gig fixes that are related to this on top of the cyber site, but all these do have a great amount of information. Now, not like before where the mission specific, where there was a ton of like stuff that they're fixing. These are a little bit more down to the portion. As you can see, we scroll down and get to the very bottom of all the gigs being taken to a new level of performance. So check out everything else before this. It comes down to where we go to the cinematic design, and this is going to be more of what's causing various cutscenes to look a little bit like not as good. We're looking for CG. They're going to bring home a lot of performance in the utilities, even for pistols and the save and loads. So I appreciate that they're taking the exploits away, as well as trying to like really hammer in just like a working ecosystem. So hopefully they can get this all hammered out for as far as the 1.3, because I feel like a lot of people have been waiting for a safe haven of an update, and you can kind of see that again this continues on. Now miscellaneous, they come down to a very short as we wrap up this very long video because of them giving a very great pause and working on some good fixes. So, and again, if you are still having issues, leave a comment down below. I would love to hear what you have to show for installing this update, or what the current update is right now at this very moment for most people that are just going to be watching this and waiting for the brand new update to come out, because it's almost here. It's almost here, which is probably tomorrow or later on tonight, hopefully. Fingers crossed. On top of the miscellaneous, for as far as the gift and Judy and V's apartment, you can see that also there's some story inconsistencies in the radio broadcast. Inside of the blackout effect, inside of the love like a fire, and some of those PC specific issues come down to tutorial tips inside of 8K screen, cause down crashes and thumbnails, toggling windows inside of the screen in the Alt plus Enter shortcut, also inside of the possible exit and screen in the tab. Yes, a lot of PC portions for the hotkeys. Moving to the compact PC for the mouse cursors, and now you have console specific, which comes down to the inner dead zone, which now has a menu for the PlayStation community. NPCs no longer speak after being killed, which would scare the hell out of you in the real life, but it's a video game, so you really don't put it past the hilarity of a nice YouTube video that most people can probably make as a skit. And top of the improved streaming of the city lights, we can see that the overwriting and the save and the inefficient memory will no longer have corrupt saves. The mask inside of the tubes inside of the barn and the hunt no longer have invisible. The rogue no longer has a clip when Johnny holds the glass correctly inside of the ghost town. On top of the loading a save in the front of the police blockade, resulting in a NPC dialogue blocking the progression. PlayStation 4 comes down to a nice portion of meeting the scene with Judy, and now finally being able to properly start that. Xbox has a fix with the cool metal fire, where part of the scene was not getting to the clinic and fading out. Now you can see where the fixed issues and the weapons and the wrong assignment inside of that backpack, and that's the end of this patch note. So if you have journeyed this far into it, I would definitely recommend hitting that subscription button and accompany with the notification bell. Turn them all on so you get all the new future updates that roll across the channel for Cyberpunk and beyond, as I add them to the repertoire of my channel. So I will see you guys and gals in the near future. Stay safe, stay classy, and I will see you there. And if you subscribe today, who knows, maybe Cyberpunk will have that No Man's Sky story, which I like watching a lot of games, because, quite frankly, we as a gaming community do need to speak out to talk about the bad side of gaming, so it can be the good side of gaming and we can gain the quality back of what we were seeking. So from day one to now, this is actually seeming like a pretty decent game, as they're trying to hammer out stuff that they're not giving up. So hopefully this game will have the Sean Murray legacy. Yes, the Sean Murray legacy. It's actually something to be said proudly nowadays, because the 5th anniversary of No Man's Sky is coming out pretty soon, and I'm pretty excited to see exactly what they have planned for that. So stay tuned, because that will be coming across the channel as they have a nicer update to the platform. So I'll see you guys and gals there, and I'll go ahead and log out.